4, 3.
We'll do it live.
Now we're live! Erin Kennedy. The general craziness of it, the impact on your life.
We have gone through so many stories and we said, you know what? This should not be kept to the two of us. Hi, Megan.
Hi, Erin.
How are you?
Oh, hanging in there. I'm ready for some sun, for some summer. I just feel better, happier. But then the other day I was thinking to myself, yeah, but then the kids will be out of school and working from home is going to be a lot harder.
I was just going to remind you of that you're wishing for summer, and we complained so much in the summer about how hard things were. Yes.
But it was hard. But sometimes it's hard in the winter too. I don't know. I mean, the grass is always greener, you know?
But you still have to mow it.
Yep.
I heard that from a friend of mine. Her name's Megan.
Yep. She's very smart, I've heard. Yes.
So we still have a bunch of questions from the Ask Me Anything solicitation that we put out.
Yeah.
So we wanted to get to those today, and just ongoing open line of, you can ask us anything at any time. And I think that, as you mentioned, Megan, we should just make this a series. Maybe it pops up once a month or something, but clearly people have a lot of questions that we wouldn't even think to address if it weren't brought to our attention.
Well, no, because it's one of those things where we were so immersed in the culture of TV news and it was our daily life and it was just how it was, that coming out of the business was difficult because the rest of the world doesn't work that way. So I think there's got to be so many differences between that world and the regular world that questions abound. So we got.
Right. I've said that before too. You know how we used to have to take those HR tests all the time about, don't sexually harass people, don't compromise your passwords, all these things. Well, there were other ones where it was like workplace, just hostile work environments. And I remember some of the questions were like, when is it okay for your boss to yell at you? And I would be like, gee, anytime that you mess up. And then it was would be like wrong answer. I was like, that's wrong. Boss can't yell at you.
Well, similarly, the information security one, I was always like, why on earth am I doing this? Like, I don't even have a laptop. I don't make spreadsheets. I don't have a laptop. I've got no special information of any other human being in my possession.
Yeah. Did you want to talk about some live reports that you saw on TV?
Yes. I want to address this because, I mean, it's the big news of the week, obviously, is the big earthquake that happened in Turkey and Syria. And it's horrible. You see the footage, and it's footage we've seen before from Haiti and from other places where there have been similar disasters, right? But what I want you to pay attention to from here on out, and when there is another earthquake down the line, is that the poor meteorologist of whichever station it is, whichever network it is, whichever anything it is, especially in day 1 or 2 of coverage, before they can unearth and find the earthquake experts, the station meteorologist will be the one talking about the tectonic plates and the seismic shifting and the magnitude and what that means and all that stuff. But Erin, just because you studied meteorology does not mean you know anything about earthquakes. It's not the same science. It's not related. There's this weird thing though, where they call them the station scientists. So like anything that falls under science goes to the meteorologist. I can't even tell you how many times I was like, oh my God, you want me to talk about what? Like, I didn't study that in school. It's not weather. I don't know. Okay, fine. Let me learn about it and read really quick. And I actually saw a couple.
Give an example though, Megan. Give an example.
Oh, all right. So yeah, I was doing a report one time, and they wanted me to do something about the black tide in England. And that is sort of related to meteorology, but like it was totally not anything that is real. It was just something that got randomly called the black tide, and I had to go figure out what it was. So I actually called the Met Office, which is the meteorological office in England, at like 2:00 in the morning. And I get a hold of this guy, great guy. We're friends on Instagram or whatever still. But I was like, excuse me, I have to do a report on the black tide. I don't know what it is. And he was like, neither do I. So we had to figure it out together and that was even sort of related to meteorology. But I'll give you an example. If there's an earthquake in California, you will get a call from the producers and they will say, Megan, quick, put together an earthquake graphic. And you're like, okay. So you're just looking online and trying to figure out where you can put the little red circle because that's all you can do. And then you have to explain about the plates and all this other stuff. Now, within the scope of the meteorology that I did in school, I did study one class called natural hazards. One, it wasn't a high level class. It was like natural hazards 102 or something. That's it. And I'm pretty sure everybody else is the same. So watch your favorite CNN, ABC, CBS, whatever. They don't really know.
Watch them dance around some really complicated topics.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
Well, that's what reporting is though too.
Over time.
It's becoming an expert. Why am I hearing myself on your feedback? Becoming an expert with little to no lead time on subjects that you have no idea what they are. So
that's what reporters do all the time. Obviously, like reporters are constantly becoming an expert about something they only just arrived at the scene of 5 minutes
in the winter ago. I was always an expert on how not to make your pipes burst.
Oh, of course.
All the time. So let's get this weather one. I have a character limit with these. So
okay.
Megan, why do meteorologists use so many different models? Why don't they pick one that has proved to be the most accurate for the Chicago area and stick with that instead of telling us what we might get?
Because there's not one that's most accurate. Sometimes it's dependent on the storm. So and you just don't know. And there's no way to know. Like, especially like, let's talk about like hurricane stuff. There's all those models and the meteorologist will throw out the spaghetti chart with all the models and the little lines and everybody's like, ah. The Hurricane Center doesn't know which one to pick either. So the cone of error basically is just they take a look at all those lines from all the models and they find some kind of general consensus and go with it. And that's basically what we had to do on a daily basis anywhere you work, because no model's always going to perform well. Like there may be a period of time where one's doing really well and then that changes. It's not a perfect science.
Right. Well, and if you picked one model there, that would just increase the likelihood that you would be wrong, period.
100%. Yeah. 100%. Yeah.
Has someone ever confused you with another TV anchor?
No, but the person who's doing my old job looks quite a bit like me now. So I wonder if that occasionally happens.
She probably gets it a lot. You know what's funny? I don't think that I would get confused for another. People would often do this. First of all, if you're in the grocery store, people look at you like they know that they know you, but they can't place how they know you. So you'll see people like staring at you, trying to place you because it's just such a disconnect to see somebody at the grocery store.
100% ponytail up and whatever. And like, right. I don't know about you, but I would always be like, oh my God, is there something on my face? Like, are my pants undone? Like what's happening? Because I wasn't processing what they were thinking at first, at least. And then I was like, oh, okay. They probably recognize me, but they don't know where.
I was at like a step class in a gym one time. And there was this woman who was looking at me. And then the look started to get a little bit meaner and meaner. And then at the end of class, she comes up to me. She goes, I wondered why you weren't saying hi to me. And it's because you don't know me.
You were like, oh my God.
At least we put it together. So no, I don't know that I've ever gotten confused with somebody else. Often though, people would come up and be like, oh my gosh, I watch you on Channel 7 all the time.
Oh, for sure.
And you'd be like, I'm not on Channel 7.
Yeah. I love you on Good Morning America. It's like, no, that's not, nope. No, you don't.
Just say, thank you.
That's what I did.
Thanks for watching.
Yeah. Or they'll say, oh, don't you love working with blah, blah, blah. And you're like, yeah, I don't work with them, but I'm going to say, they're lovely. Yes.
Well, it doesn't matter. Even if you did work with that person and didn't like it, you still say yes.
Aren't they great? 100%.
Knowing how things ended in Chicago, would you have left your last station?
Erin, you want to go first?
Okay, let's try and figure out what this question means though. Does that mean like knowing that you were going to be laid off, would you have left before you were laid off?
I think they mean, would you have stayed put? Like, would you have stayed in Cleveland? Would I have stayed in New York?
Oh.
If we knew how it would end in Chicago.
Okay. So depending on when you would have asked me that question, you would have gotten many different answers.
Yeah.
Now I would say, this is complete honesty, as difficult as that was, and I mean life-shattering difficult, now I can look on it and say, I wouldn't change a thing.
Yep. And that, by the way, my friends, is a lesson for living. When things seem like they're going to be at their worst and you don't understand why, a couple years later, you're going to look back and be like, oh, now it all makes sense. Right.
Mhm.
I think for me, I wouldn't change it for the world because it was my way back home. So
Mhm.
I had my daughter, Lana, who, by the way, will turn 13 on Saturday.
And my goodness, Megan, she is looking like an adult.
It's crazy.
It's
Like
crazy.
all of a sudden I was like, oh my gosh.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it happens quick. But so I had my daughter and we were living in New York and I was working in New York. And quite honestly, I absolutely adored working in New York. Like it was probably the best place I ever worked. In fact, I will say it was the best place I ever worked in terms of like everybody was awesome. You know what I mean? All the producers, everybody was working at a super high level. It was fast paced. You know, you had potential to do network stuff, all that. But I got to go home and be where my family was to raise my daughter. So it's like maybe from a work perspective, I wish I would have stayed in New York. But from a life perspective, I'm glad I came home. I think there's always two sides to it, right? I look back sometimes because when I was trying to decide if I was going to go to Miami, I had an offer in New York, Miami, and LA. And oftentimes I have thought to myself, wonder what would have happened if
Of course.
I would have taken that job in LA instead of the job in Miami or the job in New York then instead, and we'll just never know. Never know. Of course.
Well, and I suggested,
as they say, you can't look up a dead horse's ass.
I've never heard that one.
That's one from my mother. And she grew up
I
in
would have guessed that was
area.
a Lance one. Lance always has very colorful aphorisms as well.
Yes.
Being that
But
he's a
that's
farm
good
boy.
one, isn't it? You get it? Can't fix the horse after it's gone.
Thank you. Thank you, Megan. I was suggesting that we even just list all the markets that we had interviewed at and or received offers from, because it would have been all over the map, all over the country. And you're right. The different kind of ways that your life could have zigged or zagged is crazy.
It is. And I think about like that moment where I had those three choices was probably the most pivotal, because once I selected Miami, I knew I could go to either New York or LA next. Had I chosen to go to New York or LA before Miami, I don't think I was really ready, which is why I didn't choose it. But maybe it would have worked out anyway. I don't know. I mean, maybe I would have been doing something completely different, or maybe I would have gotten out of the business 10 years earlier. I have no idea.
Well, we have reached out to our friend Kate Sullivan as well to be on, but she was plucked from, wasn't it like Little Rock, Arkansas?
Yeah.
To New York.
Little Rock. That is correct. Yeah. And I remember a story. This is not Kate's story. It's another woman. I heard this story when I was working in New York, but it kind of tells you a little bit about how it works, how it used to work, even more so, and kind of where the money was back then. There was a woman in the 80s who was working in Arkansas somewhere in a small little market. Well, someone in New York saw her on some feed or something. And they said, we're going to bring you to New York. Would you be interested in being the main anchor in New York? And she was like, oh my gosh, yeah. So they started talking money and they said, we'll give you 2. And she thought 200,000, because that's going to be amazing to go from Little Rock to New York and make 200,000. And she said $200,000. And they were like, no, 2 million, which is unheard of today, especially if you're coming from a smaller market where they know they got you money-wise. And especially if you said 200 excitedly, now they'd be like, yep, that's right.
You're right. Yes, 200.
No, they wanted her that badly that they were honest about it. And she got to leave and make that insane kind of money from middle of nowhere, Arkansas.
Well, I think the only people who are making millions of dollars now probably are Gayle King.
Yeah, I would imagine. David Muir, probably.
Right.
Nora O'Donnell. Anderson Cooper, I would say. Maybe Wolf Blitzer.
Well, I would think cable has deeper pockets.
You might think. I've heard that there are offers for meteorologist positions and things of that nature, which are equivalent or even in some cases lower than what you would get at a local TV market.
Mm.
It just depends on it really depends on your profile coming in. Like they have the money available. They're not necessarily going to pay it unless they think it's going to bring in more, you know? Like you want an Anderson Cooper, right?
Because he's a brand name.
Anderson Cooper.
Yeah. Okay. This is a great question. Did you get paid extra to do radio stuff? Was radio work built into your contracts? Megan, did you get paid extra to do anything extra?
No, I did not. It was all pro bono.
So there's a line in our contracts that says other duties as assigned.
Other duties as assigned. That is actually what it says. And that means if we need you to do something for radio, that means if we need you to do a parade, if we need you to do something for sales, if we need you to be in a promo, whatever it is.
Come in on the weekend, if we need you to come in overnight.
Just no, you get what you get. Basically, here's my advice to someone who's getting ready to sign their first TV contract. You will never get more than you are writing your name down on that line. Anything that it says above, like they're never going to pay you more at this point. Like you're locked into that money for that contract. Now you can renegotiate later, but don't ever go into a TV deal saying, well, they're going to realize I'm worth so much more and give me a bonus. Like, that does not exist or happen in that industry.
Flat is the new raise.
Yeah.
So no, we didn't get more to do radio. Radio was part of both of our regular mornings. You would have live radio hits too, right, Meg? Or were they not live?
Yeah, no, I did live hits, yes, with Ramblin' Ray and Lisa when they were on US 99. And I did those pretty much every morning. And then you did radio hits for BBM Radio. Is that right? Is that what you were doing them for? I don't even know. I didn't have to do them.
Yep. Every other, so it was every other day. Although with Chris Gutierrez, it was whoever had the most seniority didn't have to do it. So it happened to be me all the time. Because the thing that was tough was whenever you would have to do these live hits, it was before the newscast. You would have to write a script, sit in the chair, get ready for standby, which meant, you had to be there before the commercial hit. Do any technical sorting out that had to be done, which wasn't difficult, but if you didn't hear audio, it was like, well, then I don't know what to do. And it was really a time suck. I mean, it was hard because you have your schedule down to the second when you are getting ready for mornings. So we would do the radio hit, but it was tough. We didn't really love doing it. That being said, it probably had a larger audience than what our morning TV
in some cases, I suspect it did. And I also for me, we had to do some recording stuff, and it was really just, I would just say my forecast. So it wasn't like anything had to be prepared specifically. And it was just, I would say 3, 2, 1, and then I would say my stuff. I would do it again. 3, 2, 1, say my stuff, do it again. And then we had some live hits. Those were usually fun though, because that was what was with Lisa and Ray.
Well, and yours were also during the show.
Well, I had to record before.
Oh.
That may have been before you were there, after you were there. I don't know. I did also have to do radio hits. I remember in New York, I had to do some radio hits in Miami. It's literally like just part of the thing. Yeah, you don't get paid.
And then it keeps changing too. And after that, it turned into Amazon. We had to do hits for Amazon, so that if you have an Alexa in your house, it would say, Alexa, what are the headlines from CBS Chicago? And so then it would be us saying, oh, well, overnight there was a car crash on the Eisenhower Expressway. And so then you would have to, again, write and find time to do all those. And the thing that people would maybe be surprised about is that we were writing that, which isn't anything tough. It's
right.
Just
you
more
probably could have ad-libbed it. Did you ever ad-lib that?
I would do bullet points on my notebook and I would ad-lib.
Yeah, that makes sense. Because you're not going to sit there and like fully script that out. I think radio should feel more free anyway, kind of. But it was still a pain in the butt because guys, when you've got to be in it, you have to be on set at 4:10 or whatever it is. You got a bunch of crap already that you have to do to get ready for the actual show. So that just means you have to get in earlier. It's not easy.
Or find where you can cut the time.
Yeah, which I got to the point where there was no more time to cut.
Yeah, right. Well, then you know that you're in it. Aaron, what was your favorite annual story to report on? Megan, have you ever reported in a rain or windstorm where it's so bad you had to be tied to something so you would not blow away? All right, I'll take the first part. What was my favorite annual story to report on? That's a good question.
We're not allowed to say Groundhog's Day. I will disown you?
No, that was never a thing. I always really enjoyed the first day of school stories or the first day of kindergarten
Yeah.
stories. So that's an annual thing. And it's always just so sweet. And there's such good sound. And it wasn't hard. It was just fun. So I guess that's what I would say.
Yeah, you can't go wrong with dogs and babies usually.
Right.
Or in your case, because you don't really care about dogs, just babies.
Shh. As if I didn't give that away in the other episode. Where I said that
what are you talking about? We already talked about this.
To the dog. Yeah, someday we can go into the Pause Chicago stuff, right?
Oh, yep. We'll have to have Noreen on for that one.
Yeah. Okay, so Megan, have you ever reported in a rain or windstorm where it's so bad you had to be tied to something so you wouldn't blow away?
No, thank God. I never had to be tied down, though maybe I should have been. There's also, I can remember a nor'easter where I like kind of waited a little too close and a big wave came and I got out just in time. Like, so there are stories where it was definitely kind of dangerous, but I know I never had to be tied down. Thank God that never happened. Although,
boy, if you were ever in a situation where you have to be tied down.
Yeah, I feel, here's the thing. The crews that you're with are so protective at some point that they're just literally not going to let you do something that's that egregious.
Mm-hmm.
You know, even if the station's asking because they may not know how bad it is and they want the shot, the photogs will be like, yeah, no, we're not doing that. Like, it's not safe. They got your back.
Yeah. What were the best and worst perks you received? Things like free food, entry to places, clothing, or people bothering you or acting like they know you. Also, who sent the best food to the news station? Character limit. That's why I hit that. Yeah. So here is another thing from contracts. It is called payola and plugola. So we would not be allowed to receive any perk. I think if it were over $25, I don't really know, or even anything.
Yeah, we couldn't take anything, guys. Like, if stuff came into the station, they would send it away most of the time. Yeah, that was not a thing.
And one thing that changed while we were there under one news director was any free food brought into the station. Also, we couldn't even have.
Yeah.
So here's the reason for that. Let's say that Eli's Cheesecakes brought us cheesecakes on National Cheesecake Day, which they did. And I would say that they had the best food that was brought to the news station as well. So that's what I will say. They would turn around and I don't even know what they did. Did they put it in the trash? I don't know.
I don't know what they did with it, but the logic is that if then there's a story about Eli's cheesecake and you have fond memories of the cheesecake they sent to the newsroom on that day, you were having a really bad day and Eli's saved your whole week, then you might not be able to be the way you should be as a news reporter. Like,
that it would essentially compromise your journalistic integrity. Right? That you will not be able to report impartially.
I mean, and like, you know, back when I was doing like entertainment stuff, the different stations have a different vibe for that as well, because I was not allowed to ever take any sort of trip that was offered by a movie studio because there were trips all the time. Like, for example, I was working in New York when Frozen came out. So they were taking any reporter who wanted to go from any of the networks to Norway on an all expenses paid trip to Norway.
You would have loved that.
I know, to go see like where Elsa would have really been from and get, you know, like basically just like a behind the scenes of where they, got their inspiration and all that stuff. Couldn't take it. There were other trips that was like, we're going to Scotland, I think, for the new James Bond movie. And you could go to Scotland for couldn't take it. But I had a friend who, and in fact, we should have her on sometime. She worked for Fox and she was allowed to take all those trips. In fact, they wanted her to take those trips because it made better stories and cooler stories. But she also only did entertainment. So she wasn't going to be compromising like her news chops necessarily. Mm-hmm. Although I just did weather, so I don't really think it would have been a problem either, but I couldn't do it. I couldn't go.
So that was all payola. Plugola is if like in the middle of a newscast, I said, oh my gosh, and Eli's cheesecake. Have you tried their new peanut butter one? So good. And then I would get like free cheesecake on the back end. So that we weren't allowed to do payola or plugola.
No, and I got in trouble one time even because I wrote a tweet because I was ticked off at Southwest Airlines because I didn't get my bags and they were not answering their phone and it was really horrible. I was on vacation. So I just tweeted like, come on, Southwest, all I want is my bag or something like that. And I got a phone call from the station where they're like, we understand your frustration, but like you're going to need to take that down because, you know.
I wonder when that was though, because I feel like some management. Yeah, we'll have to talk offline. Because that's still your personal account.
No, I think this was at the time when it might have been linked to our CBS email.
I see. Well, then that is different.
Really
I mean, I get that. I get that.
I really remember. I just remember being like, oh crap, I'm taking it down. Because I never really wanted to rock that boat. Like nothing was worth it to me to rock the boat like that. But sometimes, you know, just like as a human being, you kind of lose track of exactly what you should and shouldn't say, you know? Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's tough. You're always on. You're always a representative. You are a brand.
Right. Right.
That being said, I will say one of the best perks that I had, although I want to keep it very vague so I don't get anybody in trouble. There were tickets to a concert that was sold out, period. No more tickets. And I went through a media rep to get seats that were being held for the media, I think, essentially, or other people or whatnot. But I paid face value
to cover it.
Sorry?
Ostensibly to cover it.
You know, I don't even think it was that shady.
They just had tickets.
Okay. They had tickets that were not available to the public, but I reached out and I said, "Hey, can I pay you for these tickets? Face value, whatever they're going for." And she said, "Yes." And that was the best perk.
Nice. Yeah, I don't even have a best perk. Really.
And I probably could have gotten in trouble for that if I had.
Yes, probably. I got a box of Pop-Tarts with my face on it.
I still have mine.
Yeah.
Get mine?
Wait, we have 1 minute until we're supposed to be in our next one. Sit down.
Oh, okay. That'll be the
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We got to wrap this up.
You're right. Oh, okay. Jeez Louise. Well, we have so many more to go, Megan.
My timing for you.
Okay. Well, we will lead with our box of Pop-Tarts next time. Okay.
Oh, I got to find it. Where is it? I know I didn't throw it away. Kids tried to eat it, but I was like, no, that's mommy's face box.
But keep the questions coming. We will continue to answer them. Please like and subscribe. Bye, everybody. Bye, Megan.
Yeah.